Good afternoon. This is Michelle Williams of MassLive, and we are at the Legal Test Kitchen in Boston Seaport-District. I'm here with Roger Berkowitz, President and CEO of Legal Seafood, and with Rich Vellante, the Executive Chef. So to start, can you tell me a bit about the name? The company is pretty unique.
Well, so we wanted to try something different down here. When we first came down, I think the area was going through a lot of innovation. It really didn't develop a character yet. I mean, it was sort of industrial. There was the fish pier across the way. There were sort of high hopes that the area was going to be transformed. So we thought if we were going to do something, and we're going to experiment, let's experiment across here. This location came up as potential. And we thought, okay, well, if this really is an experiment, let's have fun with it, and called the LTK, which stands for the Legal Test Kitchen.
Fantastic. And when did the Legal Test Kitchen open?
Oh gosh, I have to say about 8 years ago. Yeah, a good 8 years. And you know, when we got down here, there really wasn't much going on. There was the promise of things happening. So there was a really good developer who did a lot of work down here, was playing a lot of work, my name is Joe Fallon, and he's now developing the fan pier, doing a great job. But this was his first project down here, and he convinced me this was going to be a great area. Now, at the time, it looked like an area that had been bombed out, so you had to have vision. And Joe had it, and we said, okay, let's take a shot at it. I mean, as the whole spirit was to really experiment, then let's experiment with here. And as it turned out, this really turned out to be the corner of Main and Main.
And of the whole Legal Seafood brand, how many locations do you have across how many states?
So we're in 8 states right now, 34 different iterations. There's the Legal Seafoods, there's the LX for down at Legal Crossing, the Legal Sea Bar, the Legal Harborside across the way, oh gosh, the Oysteria. So we have a number of different iterations, but they all share the same legal DNA.
And of that DNA, I mean, Legal Seafood is a brand that's known across the country. I'm originally from Chicago, and my family knows about Legal Seafood. When they come visit, they want to come here. How did you develop that brand and have such a following?
Well, you know, it's interesting. We have roots in the area dating back to 1904. My grandfather, Harry, had a grocery store in Cambridge. Used to have great produce and meats. And then my father opened up a fish market adjacent to that in 1950, where the same sort of philosophy about quality fish had to, sort of replicate what my grandfather was doing. So we have roots in the area. And we got into the restaurant business almost by mistake, really by taking the fried fish and chips out of the back that we were doing for takeout and on paper plates and picnic tables. And we sort of evolved from there. I mean, our background, we're really in the fish business. And I think over time that's really sustained us more than anything else. Because, you see restaurants come and go, but given the fact that our DNA is wedded in seafood, we tend to maintain a focus that I think sometimes a restaurant doesn't maintain.
And of seafood, how many pounds of, say, lobster do you go through in a week, in a month?
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a good question. We never really qualify. I think we sat down at one point, and I think we go through close to, oh gosh, 50, 75 tons of seafood a week. I hate to use it in tonnage, but we use a lot of seafood.
And where do you source your seafood from?
So, certainly the North Atlantic is a great source for us. Again, some of the best of all seafood in terms of variety and flavor comes from the North Atlantic, really from Canada all the way down through Rhode Island. So that's really the peak seafood. There are other countries that are doing a good job now. There's Iceland who's doing a spectacular job because of the really icy cold waters maintained. So at times if the quotas or moratoriums are tough here and we can't get enough product, we'll go there, and the quality is superb. So we really focus on countries that have a love and a history in seafood and are known for doing it right.
So, Rich, can you tell us about these dishes we have in front of us?
Sure, I'd love to. It's indicative of Legal Test Kitchen, and which is really the flavors from around the world. So it's, and as you talked about, we talked about the DNA. There's usually some seafood involved in it. So the dish in front of you is a lobster and shrimp XO noodle dish. So it has lo mein noodles, and we saute a wok because we have woks here at the Legal Test Kitchen, and we toss it in an XO sauce, which is a really unique sauce. It's a sauce that is has different types of seafood that is dried in it, shrimp and scallops. It has Chinese sausage. It has chilies, garlic, ginger, and we puree all that up and we mix it in with the sauteed lobster and shrimp. In front of Roger, we have an LTK Legal Test Kitchen mixed grill. And so we have steak tips and shrimp and swordfish. Those are a really unique combination for people that want to try something that's just more than one protein. And we serve it with some corn and fingerling potatoes and a little queso fresco cheese. And I have in front of me the Legal Seafoods style crab cake, which is here at LTK we do it a little twist. And so it's an open-faced sandwich, crab cake sandwich, and we put an egg on top of it. So, and it's served with a salad with a little bit of bacon and eggs. It goes well. And a crab cake that's filled with lump crab meat is fantastic.
And these aren't your traditional New England seafood offerings. Can you tell us about where you draw your inspiration from for your dishes?
We usually do draw our inspiration from New England. And we think about we start with the sourcing and the style of seafood, meaning the ingredients and the freshness of the ingredients. And what we wanted to do is impart a mix of different techniques and world flavors. So just in these three dishes alone, you have something that's from the Far East, you have something from the Mid-Atlantic, and then you have something that you could find in different parts of the U.S. So we like to emphasize doing things in different techniques from around the world.
And how does the Test Kitchen menu differ from other seafood locations?
Usually from the technique, drawing up of different worldly flavors. You might find a little bit more meat in some of the dishes that we use. And they are maybe a little bit more social, sharing plates that a group of people would come in and want to share and try different flavors.
And by the sound of things, you can hear that people kind of get a little bit more social here.
So, does this location try to focus on incorporating ingredients that are trendy, or just trying to stick to the classics and incorporating?
Over time, it's become more of a neighborhood restaurant.
Yeah.
But we still like to add in certain items. Like just recently, we tried a few different dishes. That dish in front of you was something that was new for us to introduce, and it's been on the menu now for about 8 months. So we weren't sure if people were going to gravitate to the XO sauce, which has really umami-like flavors, but also strong chili flavors. And so yeah, we like to try different things, but yet we realize that it is a neighborhood now, and so we stay true to that as well.
And on that neighborhood, I mean, you took a risk with opening this location. It's since paid off. The place seems as though it's packed constantly. And then you also opened Harborside, a 20,000 square foot restaurant across the street. And you opened that during the height of our recession. Can you tell me about that decision to open?
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I'd like to say I'm a phenomenal risk taker, but I actually signed that deal 2 years before the recession.
Oh.
So then it was. I keep asking myself, gee, would I have had enough of a sense of risk that I would have signed it during the recession? And I'm not sure. We may never know the answer on that. But in terms of understanding this area, I had been coming down this area since I was a kid, because all the fish piers across the way, all the stalls are here. So I had a pretty good sense of the area, and there were always a couple of good restaurants, Pier 4 and Jimmy's Harborside, that were down here that, regardless of what the area looked like, tended to be busy. So for me, it wasn't a question of say, putting a seafood restaurant on the water and guessing or whether it was going to be working on. I mean, seafood on the water, tends to work. Timing, it wasn't a question so much of if, but really when. Was the timing right or not? And so we were very fortunate we happened to walk out on the timing.
And for those who haven't visited Harborside, can you tell me a bit about the facility?
So, I mean, it was kind of interesting because we were supposed to take one floor of the first building, and then I heard they were putting up a second store adjacent to a second building, and I asked them what they were going to put in the second building, and they said more restaurants. I thought, I want more restaurants down here. So we just sort of on the spur of the moment said, we'll just take the building, we'll just figure it out. And so the good news behind that is that property on the waterfront is not inexpensive. But if you have three different venues, it allows you to appeal to a broader range of people. So on the first floor, I call it democratic eating. Typically a casual restaurant today on the waterfront would be virtually unaffordable because of the rent structure. But we're able to do it because then we have a little bit more of a celebratory white tablecloth restaurant on the second floor. And then on the third floor, it's sort of a lounge nightclub kind of area that sort of appeals to a younger demographic. So one restaurant tends to pull three different demographics in, and I think that the combination of all three makes it a very powerful location. Funny story is when we first opened, there was someone I was speaking to that was greeting different parties in the restaurant. And one party was from Springfield, then the next party was from Springfield, then the third party was from Springfield. So I had to ask, is there a Springfield convention going on? And they said no, but, and the reason they were all sort of down here is because with the Third Harbor Tunnel connection, and with something down here to gravitate towards, people from Springfield who had avoided, or Western Mass, who had avoided this area, were now coming down here. So it was really a great connection throughout the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah. And we have 34 restaurants throughout the U.S.
The Northeast down to, we have one in Atlanta, and then we have some in the Philadelphia area, New Jersey, and then Metro Washington.
But the majority of the restaurants are here in the greater
Yes.
Boston area. Do you have any concerns about market saturation with so many openings?
Well, I call it market share. You always have to be mindful. You don't want to certainly oversaturate an area, but if we can, bring enough to the area where we can, hit different demographics, and what we kind of like is, we like the fact that there are some people that like a traditional legal, but they also like to mix it up with the Sea Bar, or with Downtown Crossing, or with the Oysteria. So we give people many options within the spirit of what we do.
In addition to trying new locations, you also ventured into politics quite a bit this year with your advertisements.
As you notice, I pulled out. Yes. So we tend, in terms of marketing, we tend to focus on subjects that most people shy away from: religion, the environment, death. So we thought, let's try politics, and that hit a raw nerve with a few people, but for the most part, it was actually a fun campaign. We enjoyed it.
And any interest yourself in delving into politics? None. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for speaking with me and preparing these wonderful dishes.
My pleasure.
You can read more about Legal Seafood Test Kitchen and their other locations on MassLive later this week. Thanks for joining us.